Hello, everyone, and welcome to the anchor session of CME Palooza Spring 2025. I am Scott Cover, one of the co-producers of CME Palooza, and I would like to welcome you to our session entitled Behind the Scenes, Contributions to Independent Medical Education. And this session is sponsored by Global Learning Collaborative. So our moderator of this session, who you will hear from in a minute, is Leen Al-Yassin. Leen is a first-year healthcare education and outcomes fellow at Clinical Education Alliance. But before I turn things over to her, as we do with all of our sessions, I first want to acknowledge our sponsors, our gold sponsors, Med Learning Group, Medscape Education, and Projects in Knowledge. Our silver sponsors, Academic CME, DKB Med, Daiichi Sankyo, Global Learning Collaborative, Helio CME, HMT Education, MedLive, and Talent Health. And finally, our bronze sponsors, Answers in CME, Bonum Continuing Education, Catalyst Medical Education, CMEology, Excalibur Medical Education, Global Education Group, Infograph Ed, Integritas Communications, Iridium Continuing Education, MedIQ, Partners for Advancing Clinical Education, Paradigm Medical Communications, PVI, and Vindico Medical Education. So as with all of our CME Palooza sessions, there are two ways to ask questions. You can use the CME Palooza text line, 267-666-0CME, or if you're watching this in YouTube, you can enter in questions within the YouTube chat function. I'm keeping my eyes open for questions that come in on both methods during the session. We will be using our audience response system through Poll Everywhere. By now, you should have this on your device, but if not, you can download the app and join the presentation entitled CME Palooza 005 or type in the URL on your screen in a web browser. Finally, please note that the opinions, discussions, and or conclusions expressed are those of our panelists and do not represent an endorsement by or position of their employer, its parent company, or their affiliates. And with that, I am going to turn things over to Leen to get us started.
Alrighty, thank you so much for having us today, Scott, and with all the panelists. And thank you for the audience for joining us today. Again, my name is Leen, and I'm one of the first-year fellows at the Clinical Education Alliance. Today, we'll be taking you over behind the scenes to explore how postdoctoral fellows contribute to the development, implementations, and evaluation of independent medical education at Clinical Education Alliance. This panel will outline the structure and the function of fellowships in healthcare education outcome research, as well as the medical affairs and scientific communication. We will highlight the fellows' day-to-day responsibilities, demonstrate their educational impact, and share practical strategies for integrating fellows to drive educational excellence in innovation of IME. And today we have our panelists. We have our focus is to have our IME fellows with Ashna joining here today to offer the medical affairs perspective. To start us off, I will invite each panelist to introduce themselves, beginning with Sarah.
Thanks, Leen. I'm Sarah Knisely. I am the Fellowship Director for Logan, Leen, and Carly on this call. I am a pharmacist, a clinical pharmacist by training with an academic background and a focus in educational measurement, assessment, statistics. I've been with CEA for about 3 years, and as you'll hear today, almost instantly upon joining, I begun the process of starting the fellowship. So we're really excited to talk to you about it today. Ashna, over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Ashna Bhatnagar. I'm a Senior Medical Director here with Clinical Care Solutions, which you'll hear a little bit more about. And I'm also a Fellowship Director for the Medical Affairs and Scientific Communications. I'm a PharmD by training from Keck Graduate Institute School of Pharmacy. Did my fellowship here with ECIR Medical Communications and then stayed on and grew with the company. I currently oversee 4 medical affairs and scientific communications fellows. They're not part of this panel today, but I'm really here to provide a perspective on fellowship roles in medical affairs and scientific communications and how it coincides closely in the IME space. I'll pass it over to Logan.
Thanks, Ashna. And thank you everyone for joining us. We are very excited to talk more about fellowships in this industry. My name's Logan Van Ravensway. I'm a second-year healthcare education and outcomes fellow with CEA. I currently work with the company to support some of our scientific content initiatives, ranging from working on PowerPoint presentations and conducting some other longitudinal research projects in the background. Now I'll pass it over to Carly.
Thank you for that introduction, Logan. I'm super excited to be here. My name is Carly Yawn, and I am one of the first-year fellows here with CEA. I recently earned my PharmD from the University of Georgia this past May. I work closely with Sarah, Lean, and Logan on our outcomes team. Day to day, I'm working on scientific deliverables, how to best visually present new data to healthcare professionals in a IME content. And prior to joining CEA, I interned with Infarmed, which was a startup drug information company. And there I gained experience not only in drug information research, but also clinical research. Thank you. I'll pass it to Lean.
Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Lane. I'm an also first-year fellow working with Carly, Logan, and Sarah in the outcomes team. And I, coming into the CEA, I graduated from Texas A&M with my PharmD and MBA in 2024. And prior coming into the fellowship, I worked as a pharmacist intern in community pharmacy and also as a medical writer in Verywell Health. And thank you so much. Next slide, Scott. And our agenda for today, we'll be going over the understanding the role of industry fellows in IME, key responsibilities of fellows, future opportunities and career pathways, and maximizing fellows' contribution with IME teams. And for just to start off the panel, we would love to hear from you. Does your organization currently support a postgraduate fellowship program that might be in either medical affairs space or within IME space?
We must have a lot of CEA people on this call.
Alrighty, just to go over a little bit regarding the PharmD fellowship trend and functional area, we talk about a lot of evolving roles within fellows and industry, but it's important to ground our discussion in a broader fellowship landscape. Over the past decade, pharmacy fellowships or PharmD fellowship programs have grown over 250% from 288 programs just alone in 2015 to 2016, but to 925 programs between 2024 to 2025. So it clearly shows a lot of increasing interest within the program. While fellowships in IME or independent medical education is still relatively uncommon, there is a sharp reflecting growing demand within the postdoctoral fellowship alone. And then on the left-hand side, as you can see, the bar graph, it shows the fellowship by functional area. And as you see, you will find a lot of the programs falls under medical affairs leads to the largest share of the positions, followed by clinical development and research. Then it comes in medical communication and medical information that falls under medical affairs, and also within marketing access. Next slide, please, Scott. To start off, our first objective is understanding the role of the fellowship. We wanted to explore how fellows directly contribute to the planning, execution, and evaluation of independent medical education initiative. As we think about CEA as a parent company or Clinical Education Alliance, I will pass it to Logan to give you guys a high-level overview of what CEA is about.
Yeah, thank you, Lane. So I think before we dive into discussing the roles of fellows, I think it's important to kind of understand our own company framework to understand where each fellowship is located. So that way we can better separate the day-to-day responsibilities. And so Clinical Education Alliance, or CEA, is this umbrella company that's focused on healthcare education and healthcare professional engagement. And so there are quite a few different branches within CEA kind of focused on different aspects. The two that we are going to spend some time on today is our CPD branch and our medical communications branch. Under the MedCom space, our fellowship program is the Medical Affairs and Scientific Communications program under Clinical Care Solutions. And in this program, it's a 2-year fellowship program that connects fellows with industry clients and allows them to work arm in arm on various strategic initiatives, ranging from medical strategy, landscape education strategy, and insight generation. On the other side of this fence is the CPD space, which lies the Healthcare Education and Outcomes Analytics Fellowship, and that's the one that Sarah, myself, Lean, and Carly are affiliated with. And in this program, fellows are supporting our 3 distinct business units of our CE brands of CCO, PCE, and Pro CE. And so throughout this 2-year fellowship, fellows have the opportunity to really get involved in a number of different projects, both focused on educational strategy, content development, and outcomes analytics. And so all of these projects kind of culminate together to continue to provide healthcare professionals with targeted education that's unique and specific to meet the needs of the entire multidisciplinary healthcare team.
Thank you so much, Logan, for the overview. For our next points, we will talk about the outline and core responsibilities of the fellow that takes on the IME space, and this will illustrate how fellows embedded from day-to-day operation. To start off, I have a question for Ashna. Since your work plays a key role in identifying educational gap and informing IME strategy, can you walk us through how the vision behind the fellowship program and what inspired the creation and how it's structured and what outcomes do you hope to achieve through the program?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. I actually completed our fellowship program back in 2018, and then as I continued on with the company, I showed interest in being part of the fellowship program as a director. I will say that from the inception and the prior directors to even where we are right now, the program has evolved, but the vision really has remained the same. And it's to expose our fellows to as many different therapeutic areas and projects in medical affairs and scientific communications as they can, to really hone in on what they, to kind of help them guide what they want to do post-fellowship. So during their time in their fellowship, the fellows are exposed to 2 or more therapeutic areas, and they get to engage in all the projects related to that, from advisory boards to congresses, field training materials, etc. And our fellows are immersed in these projects that really help them refine what they're good at and what they really want to do post-fellowship. They can stay within the company and continue to kind of grow in management and continue with our clients, or also, go on to do other things. Our fellowship has also always been a remote. So even before COVID, it was a remote fellowship. It's structured as a 2-year program. And our fellows get to experience working remotely and traveling with our clients to congresses, advisory boards, etc., which also allows our fellows to see, what remote work is like in traveling and field work. Some of them kind of get a sense of it and kind of determine whether they like remote work or if they like field work or if they prefer to actually be hybrid or work directly in an office. So it gives them all of these different experiences in a training style.
Thank you so much for your overview, Ashna. Sarah, same question to you. I know you heard about the medical affairs side. Could you give us an overview about the fellowship you started?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned in my introduction, I come from a background of acute care practice, and postgraduate training is really an expectation. It's a fundamental part of acute care. This is across multiple different healthcare disciplines, including both pharmacy, medical, nursing. There's a lot of different postgraduate training that happens in an acute care setting. When I started with CEA, I found myself really part of this overall CPD strategy and thought postgraduate fellows have a really unique opportunity to provide a good clinical understanding as well as unique perspectives when it comes to educating the healthcare team. I think we're all aware of the impending physician retirement flux, where we've got, I think, around 40% of physicians retiring in the next 10 years or being eligible for retirement. We've also got an influx of advanced practice providers, and all of this is going to be met by an entirely different generation of healthcare professionals than what I trained in, than what even our fellows today have trained in. All of this really gives us a unique opportunity to leverage the skill set of a recent graduate and the clinical expertise of that graduate in helping train future healthcare professionals or relatively junior level healthcare professionals. All of that led me to really look at the spaces that we have within CPD and think about an opportunity to give our fellows experience, as well as employ some of those critical thinking skills and those problem solving skills, in addition to really getting their unique perspective on how they like to learn and how others in that particular space might also benefit from learning. So I really was able to start this fellowship with those endpoints in mind, and it's really just evolved over time. And I'm excited to talk about it today.
Thank you, Sarah, for providing your inspiration of why you want to start the program. I just want to shift the question to the fellows. Carly, as a first-year fellow, what was your why behind choosing the fellowship, particular in IME, and how did that decision reflect your personal or your professional growth?
This is a really great question. Thank you for that, Lean. I think that during pharmacy school and really working at Informed was when I noticed that there's oftentimes this like huge gap between what's recommended in practice versus what's actually practiced. So whether this be equated to simply, it's a new emerging treatment and they like physicians just don't know about it yet. They have hesitancy towards prescribing these therapies. Financial barriers to care are a huge issue, maybe issues with medication compliance. There's all of these factors that go into that. But I knew that with joining a fellowship, I wanted to practice to the top of my license in a non-traditional setting. And I really liked the idea of a career centered in designing, purposeful educational programs. So working within the IME space, we are responsible for finding these educational needs by assessing the practices among healthcare providers and really comparing them to ideal and desired treatment practices. So we then communicate these best practices through our educational content. So joining a fellowship, I knew that I could help speed track gaining this experience. For example, I could gain, 5 years of experience that I would gain otherwise in an entry-level position within the 2-year fellowship. But yeah, overall, I was just really excited to join a concentrated opportunity to advance practice and impact bedside care in a broader way.
Thank you, Carly, for choosing why inspired you to choose a fellowship within IME and your motivation. Next slide, Scott. I want to take a moment to talk about the responsibilities of healthcare education outcome research fellows between year 1 and year 2, just to give a little bit overview of what it is. Going back to Carly regarding the question, since you have been in the fellowship program for almost 10 months, what exactly can you expect as a fellow? And could you provide some insight on day-to-day responsibilities or any other research initiative you have been worked so far, or how does the project that you worked on, increase your professional growth?
Of course. So coming in as a first-year fellow, we first were learning just the foundational aspects of the continuing education space as a whole. That was completely new to me. So medical research and writing comprised a large portion of my day-to-day responsibilities. As a medical education provider, we do produce that content based upon actual need in practice. So it's our responsibility to listen to our supporters when producing these grant writing proposals and educational content. As a fellow, I've really learned how to develop creative ways to share and disseminate oftentimes really dense scientific information, whether that be in the form of, creating a poster, a PowerPoint presentation, or even a visual abstract. Additionally, I've had many opportunities to grow my skill set in how exactly to tailor that scientific content and improve my clarity in expressing it. For example, I'm tidying up a manuscript now where I analyze the benefit of repeat learning and how actively engaged learners often perform and retain information significantly better than their counterparts. I've gained experience in collecting that data, running the statistical test, using those different programs, and really effectively communicating my process within a manuscript in accordance to that specific journal's guidelines. And I've learned that not only is collecting the data important, but also the storytelling aspect is equally, if not more, critical. It's really important that we as medical education providers convey our insights in a way that highlights the content's relevance, context, and just overall impact. It's really our most effective way at driving those meaningful understanding and insights, and ultimately improving patient care.
Thank you, Carly, for giving your valuable input. That question also goes to Logan. As a second-year fellow, what one project or responsibility where you felt yourself shifted from being a learner to a leader, and how did that change your approach at work?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think, going from year 1 to year 2, there was a pretty large shift in just day-to-day responsibilities. I think from my perspective, my year 1 projects tended to be more ones that were already ongoing and projects that I kind of jumped on and to assist in one particular aspect before wrapping that up and moving on to a new project. And so that may look at like analyzing a specific data set for key insights, working on peer reviewing a PowerPoint slide deck, things like that. But then when I've switched to the second year of the fellowship, I've gained more opportunity to really build upon what I learned in that first year and taking or finding more opportunities for leadership and project ownership. Like my current role supporting the science team, I'm able to serve as a science director and oversee an entire program's deliverables from its initial kickoff meeting to those downstream deliverables and following up with those outcomes reports. And so it's brought with it new challenges in my day-to-day tasks and managing faculty, managing various timelines, trying to shuffle more urgent priorities, and then try to find opportunities to squeeze in other projects here and there. But then from a research perspective that Carly mentioned previously, there's a lot of exciting projects going on behind the scenes. And so, your second year, you're able to find or develop your own research questions and really start to develop those plans and really get that research out there. And, we'll talk more about it at the end of the presentation on how we can get fellows involved in research. But it's really exciting to continue to build upon those timeline management, those project management skills, but also, really develop those skills as a leader. Serving in my second year, I have more opportunity to work with Lean and Carly on their own development. And it's really an opportunity for me to pass down what I've learned and really set them up well for success.
Thank you, Logan, for providing your input as a second-year fellow and being always, looking for opportunities and being inspiration for Carly and I as first-year fellows. On going to the next slide. What do fellows bring to the team? And that question falls under for Sarah and Ashna. After you heard a lot of the input from the fellows, from your point of view, what are the 2 main capabilities fellows bring to the team? And I will start asking the question to Sarah.
Great. So I'm happy to address this, and I think it kind of aligns with a question that we just got from the audience about our fellow selection and kind of how we end up with the fellows that we have chosen. When I look at our kind of 2 main capabilities that the fellows bring to the table, we're looking for someone that can kind of come into the team and really develop our content and speak in a way that resonates with our HCPs today. I've already touched on the generational value that our fellows bring to the table and their ability to really help build relevance for the incoming workforce. But I think that also speaks to us when we're going through the process. Both Ashna and I have a multiple round process for interviews with our fellows. We also make sure that they do a practice presentation with us. They have to demonstrate verbal and visual communication skills. All of that makes them eligible and kind of helps us decide the best fit for the roles and responsibilities that they'll have within our fellowship. That really, for me, also ties into a couple of other pieces. First of all, really helping our fellows kind of leverage some of our joint accreditation and commendations criteria. So as we think about engaging our fellows and student trainees as planners and teachers, really leveraging that skill set and that kind of perspective in creating content and meeting the educational needs. And then lastly, I think also using our fellowship as a program to help grow our workforce within the organization, feeding into future emerging voices, feeding into additional roles and responsibilities as we maybe grow those responsibilities for the organization, as well as just in general, kind of how we're learning and growing in the space. So all of that really helps shape kind of some of the value that I think our fellows bring into this particular organization.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for your input. Ashna, same question to you. After you heard the input from the fellows, from your point of view, what are the main two capabilities that fellows bring to your team from the medical affairs?
Yeah, thanks. I have to agree with Sarah as well. You know, the interview process is important from the question that we got. I think in those presentations that the students are giving, that's where I'm really seeing, you know, their scientific acumen, because I think that one of the main capabilities that my fellows bring is their strong scientific acumen. They've just done 4 years of pharmacy school. To me, they are, you know, our content experts. They can teach the rest of my science team the therapeutic area really fast, do journal clubs, let us know what the competitive landscape is, you know, do quick research that way. And where we come in to kind of teach our fellows maybe what they haven't learned from pharmacy school is that strategy, right? How to apply all that content to advisory boards, to congresses, and the strategies directly for their clients. I think the second thing that my fellows bring is that curiosity and creativity. So what we know is a lot of what we've been doing for our clients. And I love when my fellows come in and they're curious. Why do you do it this way? Why have you always done it this way? Or how about we try something else? They're also like digital experts, right? They have the internet at their fingertips and they know what's new and innovative and how to take a lot of this new content and make it into like bite-sized learning. So they bring a lot of like really good ideas and really cool, creative ways that we can incorporate into our booths and for our doctors and at congresses. So we take them as content experts and we take their creativity and we're able to kind of, you know, bridge that gap to kind of teach them how to do that. But yeah, I think our fellows play a really vital role on our team. So we love them on the medical affairs and scientific communication side.
Thank you so much for providing an overview, Ashna, regarding your perspective. Next slide, Scott. We'll be going over right now in regards to the future opportunities and career pathways for fellows in IME. Next slide. Since we talked through a lot of some use cases today, we would love to hear from everyone any ideas that are top of the mind by answering the second poll question.
This will be a great opportunity to hear maybe some use cases for fellows or some thought processes or unique ways, and even maybe ways that Ashna and I have changed our expectations for fellows and what we've found to be success and maybe also failure.
Let them know.
We're definitely going to touch on the research. I think the technology piece is something that Ashna mentioned. You'll hear me talk about it as well. And then we're hopefully going to showcase some of our research, our successful research and our ongoing research.
Thank you so much. I have a question for you, Sarah. Can you talk about how you could use the fellows to explore new analytics or offerings, for example?
Yeah, so this is one of the things that I think is probably maybe an ongoing success, maybe a little bit frustrating if you are one of my fellows. I, in my life, have been a perpetually curious person. And I think being a bedside clinician and an educator for over 20 years, I'm really programmed to try to figure out what makes people tick, what is curious within a data set that I'm seeing, how to explain the data that I have found or the hypothesis that I've tested against. Why did it show up in the way that it showed up? And now I think excitingly, I get to train these fellows in this professional curiosity. As Ashna mentioned, this entire group, they've had digital access their entire lives. They've not known a life without Google. They've had access to just about any question. And that has made them great at finding answers, but maybe has some opportunities to really examine those responses through the lens of maybe something's not right here, or maybe something's different. And I think this is coming back into play with the use of AI and all of the different ChatGPT-like devices, where we're really starting to re-question what it is that we're finding and does it or does it not make sense. So when I think about research hypothesis, or I start to explore a large data set that we have within the organization, I oftentimes will get this professional itch to really explore what's going on with behavioral science and the relationship to this data and our learners and how they're interacting with different things and why X, Y, or Z happened. And I leverage the fellows to help me test these proof of concepts and then really make a plan for how we can maybe analyze it at scale. All of that helps drive future business initiatives, help drive future research, helps drive kind of those critical thinking skills that I think are essential as we move through this continually evolving digital space.
Thank you, Sarah, for always looking ways to help, fellows integrate to having new different projects, especially analytics. Ashna, I have a question for you. Looking ahead for, next 5 years, what are the roles do you envision today your fellows will be evolving?
Yeah, good question. Since I graduated and just looking at new applicants that are applying, I'm seeing a lot of, in the past few years and even now, seeing a lot of the PharmD MBA. So a lot of PharmDs are coming in with that business mindset, right? Which I think is really important because they not only know their scientific acumen and how to apply that, but they understand why it's important for the business. But I think where this is going to evolve in the next 5 years is really more in the digital space, right? I think even when I'm looking at applicants, I'm seeing a lot more digital innovation that these students are doing while they're in pharmacy school. And it's great because that's a lot of what our clients are requesting, right? How to transform some of this content into bite-sized pieces, how to make it into a podcast that people can listen to, but also have like a visual aspect to it. We're seeing a lot of innovation with AI, like Sarah said as well. So I think that where it's going to evolve is that fellows are going to have to also, not just hone in on just their scientific acumen, but also have some sort of digital aspect, right? To kind of just be more creative because life's evolving, the internet's evolving. And I think that everybody wants something that is also innovative as they keep learning.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ashna, for looking ways to leverage the technology and also the fellows as they bring in more opportunities. I have a questions from the audience to both of you, Sarah and Ashna. Do other members of your team have access to help from these fellows when they need, help on specific project, for example?
Yeah, I'm happy to tackle that first. Absolutely. I think our fellows are, when we first started the fellowship, it's fairly new in this particular space. And I think a lot of people were unsure what to do with the fellows and what maybe their skill sets and their capabilities are. Logan is finishing up his second year, and I think he's been a great representation of what our fellows can bring to the table. And because of his ability to work not only along strategy and science and outcomes and analytics and really research, even thinking about putting together different kind of scholarship pieces, all of that has led to a high demand and a high interest for our fellows, which has been great. And now we are able to really justify additional growth within the fellowship and hopefully share out access to the teams. So there's certainly a process, and there's certainly an interest in having fellows be involved in multiple different things. And I think probably the biggest thing that, and when we talk about kind of onboarding and setting fellows up for success, we want to remember that these individuals are still trainees, and it's important to make sure that there's some structure around whatever experiences they are having, that they're getting feedback and mentorship, and it's not really utilizing those individuals as a workhorse, but instead, yes, we want them to be involved in the things that you're working on. We also need your involvement in helping shape them to do whatever you need them to do better. So really mentoring them through that process. Ashna, am I missing anything?
No, I think that's you're spot on. Throughout the fellowship, as we've evolved and our company has grown, our fellows have always been exposed to multiple team members on the team. And that's mostly exactly what Sarah's saying, that sometimes it's my fellows coming forward to say, hey, I'm really interested in working in a different therapeutic area because I'm, really passionate about oncology, for example. And they get to work with the oncology team. And that could be, PharmDs, PhDs, masters, it could be scientific managers, directors, interns. But sometimes, we want to give our fellows that variety that I talked about, right? So they may get to go with a whole different team to go on site to a Congress and do insight generation while they're there. And they may be part of a different team of 5 to 6 people. But I think everybody on our scientific team really knows how to foster that training for our fellows, right? Having them and teaching them as you go. Why are we doing something? How to do it. So there's training that occurs even before they go on site or before they start a project. But a lot of times our fellows are working with multiple different team members. And I think as new people join our teams, we've had, similar to Sarah, a lot of team members that have come in with a strong clinical background, from a clinical setting, or many of them have been residency coordinators or, just worked in academia. So they come in and now they're training fellows and working with fellows again in just a different setting.
Thank you both for answering the question. And this question clearly lies into our next topic, which is maximizing fellow contribution with IME. We will discuss both, actionable strategies on how to maximizing the fellows' contribution and ensure the professional development and, measurable team contribution from day one. Alrighty. As you can see from the slide, there are several steps to ensure the success for the new fellows. Just to make sure that I want to, bring that question to Sarah. We all know that effective onboarding is crucial for any team member, but especially for fellows giving their limited time, as you mentioned, they're trainees in their role. How do you approach the onboarding to ensure the fellows are, and all the new team members are positioned for success from day one?
Yeah, I think this is important, in particular for fellows, of course, for all team members. Our fellows have historically been pharmacy graduates. So while they have a wide variety of qualifying kind of characteristics prior to entering into the fellowship, they all have different strengths and weaknesses and opportunities to improve. Likewise, they're all going to be eligible for just a whole host of different positions after they graduate. I think really ensuring that our onboarding identifies, hey, what are you interested in now? 2 years is a long time for you to hold steady to whatever you happen to be interested in on day one. So let's make sure that we reevaluate this periodically as you get exposed to different therapeutic areas, you get exposed to different types of responsibilities. Is there something else that maybe you're now interested in or that we need to explore a little bit more? I think having routine check-ins, making sure that you reevaluate progress, really making sure that the fellow themselves is judged against who they used to be or how they used to perform. So it's not, in fact, Lean versus Carly, it's Lean today versus Lean tomorrow versus Lean yesterday. And really making sure that we kind of set up for success on that individualized professional development, really applying our overall CPD principles to our individuals that are on this fellowship team. So that's kind of our approach right now.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for being always our continuing support for fellows and to set up as our success. I want to shift the focus toward Logan. Since you're being a second-year fellow and you're about to finish the program, how has the mentorship, whether through weekly one-on-ones or peer check-ins, helped you feel supported and grow professionally?
Yeah, I think both in my own development, but also crucial to the successfulness of the fellowship program in general, is just having those opportunities to check in with each other and see how things are going. CEA is a remote company, and so it was a concern of mine coming into the program of how we were going to navigate that virtual environment. This was a brand new industry to me as well. So I didn't want to feel isolated or siloed. But I think having those regular check-ins with Sarah, with other team members that I was working with for various projects, it really allowed me to explore and pursue my own professional development. I like to think I'm an inquisitive person by nature, and so I always or often come to meetings with a list of questions. And those meetings really give me the opportunity to ask those questions as they arise. I don't feel concerned that I'm going to forget a question or not have something answered. And as I've progressed to the second year of the fellowship, it's something that I've wanted to continue, so that way I can be a resource. I can pass along what I've learned. And something that I've started is having those same regular check-ins that I had with Sarah and other team members, but doing the same thing with Lean and Carly so that they feel supported and have a platform to really speak from. And I think it's really worked well, and it's really helped us identify barriers and helped us to become proactive in identifying and responding to those barriers. And I think it's really set us up for success for the program itself. And I think as our fellowship program continues to grow and expand to different teams and different departments, it's really going to provide us with that foundation that we can continue to expand and impact various projects.
Well, thank you so much, Logan, for your input and being our awesome mentor for Carly and I for our first year fellowship. Carly, question back to you. During your first year as a fellow, you were engaged in a lot of external professional activities. How's that experience contribute to your professional and personal growth?
Thank you for this question, Lean. Yeah, to pick up off what Logan was saying with the remote environment, I'm sure everyone heard Grace in the background. I promise she is all bark and no bite. She's protecting me from the landscape people. But to answer your question, Lean, I think that one of the many strengths of this fellowship is its partnership with national and state professional organizations that really offer, a suite of resources and individuals with vast expertise and experience within the pharmaceutical industry. Alliance, AIS, IPHO are a few that we are involved in. I can certainly speak true to the opportunity that I've had to grow upon my leadership skills and mentorship and really expand my network by serving on National Fellows Council. In this role, I've really had the chance to work alongside my peers and also student interns to develop the value of industry pharmacist case competition. And so that's been really rewarding to see pharmacy students utilize our prompts and really learn more about the value that pharmacists can truly bring to all facets of industry, not only spanning from the independent medical space, medical education space, but also regulatory affairs, medical affairs, and throughout really this external involvement. I think overall I've had the opportunity to just pay it forward and shift my focus to helping and exposing pharmacy students completing their APPEs to the IME space. Yeah, just the external involvement has allowed me to grow my transferable skills for a multitude of roles that I'll have post-fellowship. I'll pass it back to you, Lean.
Thank you, Carly. And just to echo off from what Logan and Carly said, I really appreciate the opportunity to have that external engagement because it goes beyond the day-to-day fellowship responsibility. It gives a chance to contribute to both student and organizational committee at local and national levels, whether it's IPH or IS, which has broadened my perspective and helped me grow both professionally and personally. And as all the audience can see, CEA has an investment in graduated level in students as well. And I'm going to turn it over to Logan and Sarah to give a much detailed overview for their next slide to share how students are incorporated in the CPD research and scholarship.
So
Thank you, Lean.
Oh, no, Logan, you go ahead and kick us off.
Okay. Well, sorry about that. Yeah, I think working with the graduate students and pharmacy students in general is a really rewarding aspect of this fellowship. It really Having recently been a pharmacy graduate, going through that final year of the curriculum, going on different rotations to see different aspects of the pharmacy world, it really gives me an opportunity to be that preceptor I always wanted to have. And I think CEA does a great job at really trying to identify the strengths of students as they come in and try to match them with projects to really inspire and nurture their own development. Whether after they do their own reflection and they want to say work on their presentation skills or work on their analytical capacity, hearing that, and they've already done the hard work of to identify room for improvement themselves, we would like to try to match them or pair them up with projects that we think might be able to really help them grow in that area. And so we've been able to work with quite a few students on various research projects to get them more involved. And I don't think, at least for my part, my goal is not to inspire them to choose medical education, but just to continue to invest in their own development. And if they are interested in staying in medical education, then we can continue to nurture that collaboration or that connection. But I think as a whole, really just provide them with the transferable skills to set them up well for whatever their postgraduate decision is, whether that be entering a full-time position or going to a clinical path via residency. And I think, just trying to identify strengths, weaknesses, as Sarah was saying earlier, and give them that opportunity to really shine. And we also seen continued interest in students wanting to pursue research while in school. And so for quite a few of our students, both at the final year of their curriculum, as well as younger students in year 1 and year 2 of their professional phase of the curriculum, we've been able to do research and then publish that work, that research at a national level, whether that be a national meeting via a poster presentation or a manuscript such as the one that you see on the left side of the screen. So it's really exciting to be involved at the student level to get these students interested in research. Sarah, anything you would like to add here?
I think the only thing I would add is that it's always interesting to expose our fellows or whoever it happens to be to the opportunity to sit in another person's shoes. So somebody precepted them when they were a student. They had people teaching them when they were students, and now they have the opportunity to really pay that forward. And that yields itself a lot of maybe aha moments of, hey, this maybe wasn't as easy for my preceptor, or this wasn't as easy for my teacher in the classroom to create the slides or to precept me in this particular experience, and really gives them that opportunity to self-reflect and to learn and grow in different skill sets that are going to be necessary for every future position that they're in. So I think that's a great opportunity for the fellows in particular.
Thank you so much for both providing your insight and always looking for opportunity to expose students and fellows to grow professionally and personally. And just to wrap up before we ending our presentation, Sarah, I have a question for you. What one piece of advice would you offer to someone in the audience in particular who wants to maybe get involved in fellowship, start one, or even becoming a mentor to fellows?
I think there's a couple of great places to start. Lean, at the very beginning, when you walked us through the number of fellowships and opportunities for fellows within industry itself, we saw there's almost 1,000 different programs nationwide. There's a solid chance that people on this call, there's already a fellowship within your organization. Likewise, the Industry Pharmacists Organization has, and they're cited on this slide, they've got a great website. They are always looking for mentors for students that are interested in fellowships, or for fellows that are actively part of a fellowship. So there's great ways to get involved there. Outside of that, I would, of course, encourage you to start your own fellowship, and specifically in the IME space, because I think we've got a lot to offer these postgraduates. When you're looking at that, just consider what experiences you can bring to the table. What can you offer? Are there opportunities that maybe you could help cultivate for this individual, and really making sure that you're approaching it with an attitude of kind of paying it forward and mentoring somebody to become a better version of themselves and equip themselves for success within this field. All of us on this panel are more than happy to also provide advice or to talk through potential scenarios or ways that we could help collaborate on future fellows or future IME fellows. And we're just we're here, we're available, and of course, there's our connections. So I think that's probably what I've got to share, Lean.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for your input. And I just wanted to make sure that thank you so much for listening as an audience, and we hope you enjoyed the presentation. On the left-hand side, you will see the QR code for our CEA fellowship brochure. You're more than welcome to scan it and see how we made our brochure and how we approach the program. And then on the right-hand side, we provided our QR codes for all of fellows, Logan, Carly, and I. We would love to connect with each and every one of you. Thank you so much.
Great. Well, thank you guys for this wonderful presentation. Thanks to everyone who stuck with us throughout the day as we wrapped up CME Palooza Spring. So just a few final housekeeping items. We have our CME Palooza scavenger hunt, which is wrapping up here shortly. If you have not yet gone to the ACHL website and looked for the CME Palooza logo, you can go do so now. Click on it and see what happens. I promise it is something extremely, extremely special. So we also do have our CME Palooza Spring survey, just to get a sense of who's been watching and what they've been, and what some plans for the future. It's only a few questions long. So finally, thanks everyone for joining us. We will be back with CME Palooza Fall, so mark your calendars for Wednesday, October 22nd. So with that, I'd like to thank Sarah and Logan and Lean and Carly and Ashna for joining us today, and for everyone who's tuned in. So I will see everyone in a couple months.
Thank you, Scott.